Back.
Yep, I am. Hello, how are you?
Look no different. Horns are still there, right?
Yes. Yep. But yeah, the surgery I had addressed some chronic pain, and the pain is almost, if not completely gone. So it was 100% worth it. So I'm feeling really, really good. I forgot what life was like without that.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hello, Jay.
No,
Hey.
you got me for 30 minutes today. I got a hard stop at the bottom of the hour,
Understood.
but I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you. I'm just giving people a few more minutes to join and putting together a tiny bit of an agenda. Hello, Josh.
Hi, how are you?
Doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Good.
We're just giving people, I'm going to start 4 or 5 after the hour, just give people enough time to, they're coming straight from a meeting, to close that window and open a new one. I regularly have meetings in Zoom, Teams, Discord, etc. And it takes me a moment to remember which one I'm supposed to be in at any given time. Also Slack.
If we have a minute at some point, I would like to let people know about an upcoming event that I think people in this group might be interested in.
Awesome. I'm going to put a
I don't
link.
need to do it immediately, or at all if we don't have time. Up to you.
Yeah, I just put a link to the notes and agenda. If you want to add that under the agenda for today, which is the 22nd, please feel free. And if people want to mark their attendance, please feel free to do that as well. GitHub is showing OpenSSF as having no public repositories at the moment. Is this the correct one? Oh, never mind. Okay. Oh, it's OSSF, not OpenSSF. Okay, gotcha. This is the correct one. That is confusing, especially because the OpenSSF one is marked as verified. Hello, Daniel. And here's a link to our GitHub repo. Cool. And let me just add that pull request to the agenda. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So you have a standing agenda item to welcome new friends, though I think everyone in the meeting currently is a long time OpenSSF memory safety SIG person. So welcome back, everybody. I would like some help if someone might be willing to take notes because I have found it is impossible for me to take notes and talk at the same time.
I'll do my best, but
Okay.
note patches are always welcome.
Understood. Yeah. Cool. Let me just mark that down. All right. And let's talk a little bit about some in progress work, in particular, Crobe's pull request 2, the memory safety repo. And I will go ahead and share my screen on this. If I can remember where the button is. There it is. All right. And not that screen. Let's share this. All right. Oh, hi, Avishai. And I do want to do a quick call out and thank you to Avishai for running the meetings in my absence.
My pleasure.
All right. And we are starting out by reviewing Crobe's pull requests around education. And we have one outstanding comment, which is standardizing in either memory space safe or memory hyphen safe. And I think that is a good matter for discussion. I more regularly see memory space safe, I believe, but I'm wondering what other people's experience might be.
I think if we visit with the grammarian, they might go with the hyphen or in dash or whatever that is. But that might be the right answer, is to go ask the grammarian.
That's true.
Plus, it also makes documents easier because embedded spaces well, perfectly normal on a real system, not so good on different, for example.
Fair point. Yeah, I do think it's more grammatically correct. I do also think, being consistent with what is more commonly used is good as well, but I am very open to either possibility. Does anyone else have a preference? Go ahead,
I
Crow.
prefer hyphenated,
Okay.
but I will defer to whatever the will of the group is.
Understood. Anyone else have a preference between hyphenated versus space?
Another one in the chat.
Oh, I forgot. I can't see that when I'm sharing my screen. For
Oh,
memory
no,
sake.
it's
Oh.
dash.
Yeah,
And Daniel.
I do think for memory safe, the adjective. Yeah, I think it makes sense to have the hyphen, but we're talking about memory safety. That's 2 words in a different way.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I would be okay with standardizing memory safe. We use the hyphen, but if we're talking about memory safety, we use a space between the words. Okay, I'll just add that. Does anyone have any objections to that, I should say? All right.
Yeah. Is unsafely a word? It's like hopefully.
See that unsafely.
Oh, unsafety.
Or unsafety. I don't actually
SBT.
know. All right. Well, I'm gonna. Use the word unsafe. Okay, gotcha. Got it. It's an L in the all right, cool. All right, well, let's start out by putting this in the call. Oh, goodness gracious. Call, we agreed to standardize on memory safe memory safety. And then, yeah, memory safely with an L in the chains. L in the thing. Yeah, I don't know on that one. Developing memory safely reads a little odd to me. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Okay. So not memory safely, not unsafely or unsafety. Any other thoughts on this, or does anyone have objections to standardizing on these four principles? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and comment. Krobe, I'm not going to ask you to do that for the entire, or to do the subs in for the entire doc. I'm happy to do that, but if you could standardize within your change, that would be fantastic. And I'll take an action item to standardize the language in the larger doc. And probably move or copy this into the README for future reference. All right. Taking a look at open issues. All right, investment in education, which Krobe is working on. Missing examples for invest in tools and specifications section. Let's pull this up. Okay. Gabby said that he would contribute to this, which would be awesome. Avishai, go right ahead.
Thanks. So I have a general question about Krobe's PR. Since the proposal was to propose to create reference library and education material on etc. My question is, do we only propose to create such material, or do we also want to maybe reach out to universities, colleges, educational organizations to favor memory safety over memory unsafe, or sorry, so to favor memory safe languages, right, in their existing materials and courses?
Krobe, go ahead.
I think that's a good addition. I will say trying to influence collegiate curriculum is challenging. But that doesn't mean because it's hard, we shouldn't try doing it. But I think that's a good, and maybe through some of our other work, like through the evangelism, like going out and doing conference presentations or having blogs and webinars, we can help try to influence the larger conversation, but also approach academia to see if we can get them to value these types of training over non-memory safe languages.
An ally we might have there's a professor at Portland State University who has a curriculum on Rust, which I believe covers memory safety in it. Could be a good ally to team up with, or use some of his work with his permission, of course, or give feedback on it. That would be a good opportunity, I think.
Thanks.
All right. And then for investment tool specifications, which Gabby said he will contribute to it. Gabby sent me regrets before this. Just he had a conflict today with I think a C++ specification meeting. So I know his area of expertise is C++. Are there any others that Josh, I could see adding in some of your work into here might be good. And I'm going to stop share just so I can see everyone a little better. Is there anyone else who'd be interested in contributing to the examples for invest in tools and specifications section? All right.
Do you
What-
think that talking with Michael from the Bean Scheme team,
Oh, that's a great idea.
yeah, I can talk to him.
That would be awesome. Yeah, Michael is a Microsoft employee who's working on an open source tool called BinSkim for skimming binaries. I don't quite remember how the name correlates, but for looking at binaries for memory, evaluating them for memory safety. Josh, go ahead.
I want to raise a point that I'm a little worried that maybe you've already talked about and I missed, but I want to make sure that it's out there in case it's useful to you. We've done a lot of work to rewrite a bunch of tools in Rust, and the problem coming at us right now has mostly to do with trying to get operating systems to ship things that are in a different language. And these problems aren't necessarily specific to Rust, but definitely apply to Rust. They also would apply to things like Node or Python. So they're very used to shipping C programs that don't have very long dependency chains. Mainly because they don't have nice dependency management. So adding dependencies is a pain. So you get short chains, but you pay a bunch of other prices for that. So one of the things we're running into is that these operating systems are kind of holding up in surprise at the new dependency situation. They're like, well, you know, the C version of this program has like 6 dependencies and the Rust version has, you know, 50, maybe more than that. You know, and the question is like, well, how do we know all these dependencies are getting security updates? How do we know, you know, do we have to take responsibility for all 50 dependencies and backport all fixes for the next 10 years? And is this reasonable? Like, I think the next big thing we're going to run into is this kind of stuff from operating systems where there are a few different possible solutions. One of them being like rethinking how operating systems think about dependencies. I don't know if thinking about that kind of problem is in scope for this or not, but I think it's worth considering whether it is in scope, because if we don't solve this problem, rewriting software is not going to get distributed as widely as we would hope. And, you know, roughly speaking, the two like basic problems is like change how you think about it and ship it anyway, or 2, introduce systems that reduce the number of dependencies. And that basically comes down to larger standard libraries. So that's all I'll say about that. But I just wanted to throw that out there as something we're thinking about for this group.
It's a good thing to bring up. Crow, go ahead.
I don't know if the group wants to adopt that as part of our mandate, but I think we definitely need to document that as a risk to long-term adoption. And maybe we agree, we think we want to try to help influence the distros, but we definitely should document that as a risk to consumers having access to memory safe software.
Would we want to document that in the plan document or?
I would.
Yeah,
We did
add a
for-
risk section. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe we do want to work on that. And, you know, I would defer to the group's choice, but we definitely should, at minimum, have it documented as a risk.
That makes sense. Josh, are you able to contribute, you know, just a brief risks section and add that statement to the repo?
Do that in the form of a pull request?
Correct. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah. And if and if any questions come up, I know you know how to do pull requests, but if any questions about how the repo is set up or such come up, feel free to ping me. I'd be happy to help. Cool. And thank you for bringing that to our attention. All right. So I have maybe a kind of bigger question, bigger picture question for Krobe. But, assuming we get in the missing examples, assuming we add in the education section and a few others, what else is needed from us for this to be considered the revised language in the plan, for us to ship it, whatever that means?
What so the mobilization plan is a currently in an interesting state. But for this group's efforts, we would want to make sure that everybody that's participating has reviewed the totality of the plan and endorses it. Make sure we get any final changes. I would then share it with the best working group, for their do an RFC there. And then we can present it to the TAC saying this group has gone through this exercise. We've done these revisions, and here is our proposal for the future next draft of the mobilization plan. And that way, when that effort picks up later this year, they can just wholesale grab this, kind of plug it in and incorporate it into the rest of the work. Now, if we were looking for specific funding, like if we thought if we had $50 and a Starbucks gift card, we could make a change. That's a slightly different process, and I don't have a high degree of confidence we can get funding right now. But Omkar, the new executive director, is working on planning his 2024 budget proposal. So if we did have something we felt very strongly about that could have a large impact, we would want to start to think about in our plan and document what we think costs or resource needs would be. And that way, when we start the budget talks, we would be prepared and just ready to say, hey, we've got an idea that needs funding, but we consider this. But the mobilization plan itself will be, they'll start, we will start rewriting it towards the end of the year. And, ideally we'll be done with our collaboration and we'll be happy with it. And we can still do it if we want to continue to work on things that have no cost. Great, we can continue to do that. But we'll have the wording ready that they can just kind of pick up and drop in.
Got it. I think it would be good to, for next meeting, maybe not the final review, but, plan on reviewing the language as a whole, see if there's any more changes we want to make those changes. And then I could add those in a pull request, and then we could I could put check boxes with people's names. We could asynchronously ask people to sign off on it by clicking their checkbox. I think that's a good goal for next meeting. All right. Cool. And Josh, do you want to introduce your event?
Yeah, I wrote up the main points in the agenda, so if people just want to take a look at that, that's a pretty good summary. Just letting people know that ISRD is planning a memory safety event for November 2nd in San Francisco. Might be of some appeal to people in this group. The plan is, there have been a number of memory safety events over the past couple of years. Most of them have sort of started with the basics and talked about some other relatively basic material. The goal here is to not recover that ground, but to assume that everybody coming is familiar with the basics and the dynamics. Like, we don't need to talk about how 70% of vulnerabilities are memory safety or whatever. We're going to skip past that stuff and spend the day focusing on some of the really hairy questions that we need to answer. And so it'll be very focused discussion. We'll assume people are coming in with the background, and we'll address questions like the one I brought up before about operating system adoption of memory safe code and, longer dependency chains and things like that. So if you're interested and you think you might be able to attend or want to attend, or if you know other people who you think would be good, let us know.
I am definitely interested in that, both from Microsoft perspective as well as Rust Foundation perspective. So I'll reach out to you via email. Cool.
Yeah, we haven't announced it publicly yet. At some point we will. Just giving people here a heads up in case you want to mark something on your calendar.
Crow, over to you.
Yeah, I think we make it an action item for ourselves that once the plan is done, we maybe go approach the distros and say, this is a problem we're trying to help solve. What do we think? How can we get this integrated into product roadmaps? And there's things like the plumbers or DevConf. There's a lot of conferences where we may want to potentially submit an abstract or a panel to start to encourage more community participation in this as well.
Yep. We've started talking with some of the distros and generally got the impression that individual engineers within the projects have quite wildly varying perspectives on how this should happen. And there's no general policy, and in the end, it's hard to get anything through. I'm working on a blog post that lays out in more detail what exactly the issues are here and what the potential solutions are. So hopefully I'll have that out, and then by the time November rolls around, we'll be closer to being able to, identify specific solutions.
All right,
Is
that's,
this a
go
Linux
ahead.
specific issue, or is that also something that you attribute to Windows as well?
It's everybody. I
It's
mean,
everybody.
Linux,
Okay.
Linux, I
So
think, is
that's
the number
interesting.
one priority and where it's maybe the worst, but it really applies to everybody. And it just boils down to how long the dependencies chains are and how do you view taking responsibility for that.
So I wonder if maybe if we can also get somebody internal from our side to participate in that.
Yeah, participate in the November 2nd event or participate in general, Abhishek?
Yeah,
And by our side, I'm assuming you mean Microsoft.
Yeah, from the Windows side as well. I know we're also working on integrating more Rust into the kernel. So yes.
Yes, we are very interested in having Microsoft people there. We have been talking a lot with Racinovich's team and also the people who do like TLS and cryptography and stuff like that at Microsoft. So we've got good participation from Microsoft already, but happy to have more. Obviously, figuring this out for Windows would be a big deal.
Probe?
Another idea we can do, leveraging the foundation, we could potentially create some type of virtual workshop. We did a maintainer summit where we were talking to upstream maintainers about security before the end of last year. So maybe we organize something similar where maybe this group would come in and help facilitate the conversation and directly reach out to maintainers and distro representatives and try to have the conversation, in addition to the conference and any other conferences we want to do. So that's another idea.
Sounds good.
Good, yeah.
So that brings us to the end of the agenda. David Edelson, hello. Have you been here before?
Hello. Not certain I've been on this, but been a bit of a timing conflict. Everybody wants to have meetings at this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Oh, welcome.
No, thanks very much. I'm sort of sorry. I mean, Charles is doing a great job as the direct contact from IBM. Hi, Charles.
Awesome. Cool. Any other items we would like to cover today? All right. Well, hearing none. Go ahead, Charles. Sorry.
I just have a background question, and maybe nobody knows, maybe they do. I keep reading about some kind of uproar and internal strife in the world of Rust up at the top. What is that? What's the problem? Can anyone give me a thumbnail?
I will give you the. I can.
Okay.
There's as a foundation board member, there's information I'm privy to that I obviously can't share. But so well, the way I summarize it is Rust's rapid adoption and growth over the past couple of years outgrew its previous governance policy. Or previous governance structure. That structure was stressed to breaking a couple of years ago, or about a year and a half ago. And so a group of people, various team leads from around the Rust project, got together to put together a new governance system. That system is now in place. There's a new leadership council in place. It just was put in place like a couple of weeks ago at most, became official. So the new governance process, which is designed by very, very dedicated community members to be able to operate at the scale that Rust is used and developed on at this time. So like any major open source project, when it reaches a certain threshold of adoption, the growing pains get very, very painful.
Yes.
And yes, things broke about a year and a half ago or so pretty badly, but now there's a new structure in place, and I'm highly confident it's going to be much better going forward.
Okay, thank you. I assumed it was growing pains, but couldn't find any definitive background. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wonder what's next, right, for this SIG after we do the revised SIGs, right? So in other SIGs, we started breaking that up into a more concise plan, right? So we took each one of the sections, we even broke out into sub SIGs, if you want, to really chew on that and bring a real plan for each one of those sections. Is that what we think would come next? And how does that relate to what Rob was saying before about funding or not funding?
I think the next step will be the researching and recommending initiatives for funding by the OpenSSF. And then following on from that, it's very open. We can discuss tooling, whether we want to invest developer effort. We have several developers on this call in that tooling, evangelizing, and creating education materials or consolidating existing educational materials and linking to them with full credit, of course. I think it's quite open what we can do next.
I think the sky's the limit. It's limited by our volunteer time and our imaginations. We can take this however far you want. If you just want to do the simple rewrite, that'll be very much appreciated. Because again, we've learned stuff over the last year and a half. That's excellent feedback. But if we wanted to make a prescriptive plan, or if we wanted to figure out tools or investment opportunities, I think that's also a thing for us. And I love the idea of evangelism and getting the word out. Maybe we do a set of office hours, kind of memory safety, ask us anything kind of things. Have the experts here to talk through to projects and maintainers on how they can implement some of these things.
Collaborate with other working groups, right? Maintainers, consumers, how to bring that out.
We're very soon going to have a DevRel community focused on the developer experience and how to get folks access to the tooling and process and learnings. So that's another avenue for us that potentially, once that gets spun up, maybe we try to get an invite there, a seat at the table to kind of put this in as an agenda item, as that group talking about and how to raise that developer awareness more directly.
Cool. All right. Anything else anyone would like to discuss before we adjourn until 2 weeks from now? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Those of you watching on YouTube, because I know people do, thank you for watching this, and I hope you're able to come to a meeting whenever you can, or join us in the Stream04 Memory Safety Slack channel within the OpenSSF Slack, or OpenSSF, goodness gracious, Slack. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.